And we're live. All right. Here we go.
There we
This is
go.
what is this? A month and a half in the making.
Uh,
Man,
Something like that. Call it 6 weeks.
I'm happy. I'm happy we're able to make it happen, man. I
Me
really
too.
am.
Me too.
I It was funny because when I met you at Mayor's backyard, um, I was legit just starting it. I think I maybe had like one or two episodes, and
How many
and
you up to now?
this is gonna be I think 61 or 62.
Okay,
Um,
awesome. I love
yeah,
it.
it's been a ton of fun. I mean, it's more about putting out. I mean, right now I'm focusing on putting out content rather than I don't have any. I mean, I would love down the line to get video, to get some studio space, or at least make my own studio space, even in my my house. Um, but I think it's good to put one foot in front of the other, and before you get all your grandiose ideas, just make sure that you're consistent about it.
Baby steps.
Hmm.
Slow and
Yeah,
steady. Slow and steady wins the race.
that's right. That's right. So, for example, like when I bought, I picked up guitar a couple of years ago, and when I first decided I was going to pick it up, I was like, I'm not going to buy. I wanted to buy a beautiful guitar. I had a million musicians in my head. I could imagine all their cool equipment, and I'm like, instead of I went the first thing I forced myself to do was to go on Facebook Marketplace and buy a used kids guitar for 80 bucks. And if I told myself if I played it every day for like I think 3 or 4 months, then I would treat myself to a proper one. And and I think I'll do the same thing with this. The more that I do, and the more that we do, that the better. The more I'll invest in it, and the more serious I show myself I am about it.
100%. You've got a better guitar story than my guitar story, I'll tell you that.
What's your guitar story?
My guitar story is many moons ago in a different lifetime. I'm not going to go into too much detail. One afternoon, I was feeling a little impulsive. I walked into a music store back in Johannesburg, South Africa, and bought an electric guitar. Thought I could teach myself guitar on YouTube. I think I learned like Deep Purple. What's the one everyone knows? Smoke on the
That's pretty
Water.
good. It's
No,
pretty
it's like
good. It's better than I've
it's
gotten.
no, no, no. And I think I learned. It's not even whatever. It's nothing. And basically never used the guitar again. I
Ah,
think it's still in my parents' garage.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, the only time that you quit is if you left it at your parents' house, but it sounds like you
Yeah,
quit.
yeah, 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 yeah. Straight up.
Yeah, well, was it fun was it fun when you started learning? How'd you go about it?
YouTube.
And you learned chords, or you just looked up a song you wanted to play, or how'd you do that?
I just wanted to feel like a rock star.
Oh yeah, dude. Don't we all, man? Isn't it crazy? It's very cool. But you can, I guess there's other outlets. I found in terms of playing guitar that one of the big things that holds me back, I think, in terms of my advancement, but also in how I feel about playing, is that I never played with anyone, and I would always just play with myself. And if I went to open mics, I would do open mics alone. And then one of my good buddies here in Florida used to play drums as a kid, and he bought a kit, which is basically like a portable set. It's like a station, almost like it looks like a DJ kind of mixing station, and it's got a bunch of different drums circles on it for different drum sounds.
Mm.
And then when he and then and he and I have played together a couple of times, and just the zone that you get in, it's a totally different zone when you're playing with someone else, even if you're not good, because like there's something about the collaboration and the emergence of the two
Chemistry, yeah.
personalities, yeah, the chemistry, like it's really magic. It's really cool. um
Listen, you were
and
way more committed than I am. I never got that far.
Well, I got lessons. I mean, it took me a couple of months. I would practice the same thing incorrectly for like months, and I was really not getting anywhere. And I was, you know what? Like, I'm a freaking adult. I could pay, 25 bucks or 45 bucks, a couple of times, once a week for some lessons if I really care about this. And I lucked out. I got an amazing guitar. I got an amazing teacher that loved the same type of music as I did, And so he was, and I wouldn't call it ADD, but I have, the way I've heard it put was, my ability to focus is dependent on how interested I am in the particular topic, you know? So things
So
that
that
I'm
makes you a
interested
normal human being.
I think so. I think so. I think some people are better at being disciplined about things that they're not interested in than I am. I think some people can kind of fake it a little bit more. Not fake it, but at least, say even though this isn't my thing, I'm gonna just I'm gonna plow through this. I'm gonna power through it. And I'm not one of those. So this
Me
poor
either.
teacher was teaching me, three or four. He start teaching me three or four different songs per lesson, or different techniques per lesson, and every time I get distracted and just take us right off track. But he rolled with it, and that's a sign of a good teacher, where you kind of read the student and you tell them what it is that and you work with what they need.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. Couldn't agree
So
more.
you've been busy, dude. You've had a busy November. You want to tell me about Tony Robbins first, and then we could talk. We could talk from there.
Yeah, I mean, wow, the last 6 weeks has been a whirlwind, to be honest. But awesome stuff. Like so much to be grateful for. It didn't all start with Tony Robbins, but Tony Robbins definitely featured in the last, you know, busy period of time in my life, and went to his event. He's got several events, but this event was his event called Unleash the Power Within.
Okay. Do you mind?
It's
I'm sorry.
really,
Is there any way that you can speak a little louder or
yeah,
get a
sure.
little closer? Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Can you hear me better
Yeah,
now?
that's
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah,
yeah,
perfect.
awesome. Let me know at any time if
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, so I just went to his most recent event called Unleash the Power Within.
Hmm.
And it's really intense, bro. It's 4 days. No, it's like really
Where is this?
intense. So this was in the Prudential Center in Newark, New
Cool.
Jersey. I think it's usually held in Florida, actually, in Palm Springs, I want to say.
Okay. Palm
Um,
Beach.
Palm Beach.
Yes.
My bad, Palm Beach.
Hmm.
And it's 4 days, full immersion. It's like 14-hour days,
Whoa.
very little breaks. He features for like 2 of the 4 days, where it's like
Okay.
mostly him, kind of conducting, I guess you could say, the seminar. And it's information overload. It's a lot of digging deep. It's a lot of introspection. It's a lot of um, work. It's a lot of like breaking through. I think each day has a topic. I'm trying to remember the topics of the day. I think the first day was a breakthrough, which is really like overcoming like fear. And day one actually ends with walking across a 15-foot pit of hot coals.
No. Are you
Yeah.
serious?
I did it. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness. What was your real time experience? Were you like
Um,
were you one of the first people to go in the middle of like what was your
so they've got like 32 pits lined up parallel to one another because there's like 10,000 people there.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So I would say I was amongst the first, but meaning I was probably in the first 2,000 people that went.
Okay.
Um, and it's weird because I've actually done it before. This was the second one of the Unleash the Power event that Tony Robbins does that I've been to, and I did it in Palm Springs, Florida before, 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and doing the fire pit then was actually much more chilled than it was this time because of the weather. So walking to the fire pit, you walk outside and you're barefoot,
Right.
freezing. Your
Right.
toes, your feet, you can't feel anything. You're numb. The floor, because you're walking like across the road, so the floor under the road underneath your feet, literally, it does feel a little bit like you're walking over shards of glass. It's like it's very cold, it's very uncomfortable, it's very painful. Then you get to it's like you get to you join the line to like go walk through the fire pit, and it's all chilled until about two people are before you, and then you're like, okay,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
actually happening. Like,
Yeah.
oh wow. Then it's like one person before you, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And then it's you. And basically, they've got these people assisting as well, and you've kind of got to like hype yourself up a little bit and like really like change your state and sort of like change your physiology a little bit, like, and just basically hype yourself up and like believe that you can do it. And then, bro,
So
they like
you say I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this, and you go. That's the way that you dealt with it.
yeah, pretty much. You know, it was, yeah. So I mean, like, there was actually more like, I don't got this, I don't got this, I don't got this. Okay, it's me. Okay, I got this, I got this, I got this. And then you
Wow.
and then you kind of go, and like, bro, it's 15 feet long. It's, you know, it's relatively, it's probably a good like 4 paces on each foot.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like 4 on one foot and 5 on the other, or whatever it might be. And it was pretty painful. I'm not gonna lie. Like, so the first time I did it, it wasn't painful, and it was fine. But the
When you say
weather
painful, what do you mean? What do you mean painful? Physically or like?
yeah, physically, like you can feel that you're walking on hot coal. Like you can, it's not like, it doesn't feel like you're not walking on hot coal. It feels like you
Right.
are walking on hot coal.
Right. Right.
And you know, you get to the end, they spray your feet down just in case like any coals get caught between your toes, or maybe you did
Yeah.
burn yourself a little bit, or whatever the case may be. And as you get to the other side, I actually was like, whoa, I think I burnt myself. I think I burnt myself badly. I felt like
Okay.
my feet were blistering. I felt like yeah, it was. I was in a lot of pain. I'm not gonna lie, and it was freezing. So you go from extreme temperature to extreme temperature because it's like close to 0 degrees outside,
Sure.
probably, and I'm 0 centigrade, so close to like 32 degrees Fahrenheit outside.
Ah, right.
Yeah. So it's like probably close. It's probably it was like, I don't know, 35 degrees outside.
But it's freezing, dude.
It's freezing,
70
bro.
It's 70 degrees in Florida, and I'm frigid right now, dude. I cannot complain.
So it's like, call it 35 degrees outside, maybe even 32. I don't know.
Sure.
Your feet are freezing. You're numb from cold. Then you walk onto hot coal. It's like the duality of like 2 extreme temperatures playing out. And
Yeah.
I thought my feet were obliterated. I couldn't walk. Like,
Wow.
I'm walking back to the Prudential Center because this is all happening in the parking lot, and I was in agony. I like couldn't walk. I was like, oh my god, like I'm suing Tony Robbins. This did not work. And I looked at my feet and they were fine. No blisters, no nothing. And my feet were totally fine. Like there was 0 damage. And interestingly, the first time I did it, which was in Florida, and the weather was obviously a lot nicer there, I don't remember the walking over the coal being as painful an experience, but I did get a slight burn on that first time. You know, slight blister, nothing crazy. Then the second time now, I thought I absolutely obliterated my feet, and they were totally fine.
Wow.
So it was an interesting experience. But anyway, that you know, I digress. That was day 1 of Tony Robbins, which was the
Wait, so
breakthrough day.
so
Yeah,
leading up to it is acknowledging different aspects of fear and different aspects of self-doubt. Is that what it is?
yeah, I think it's like the idea that everything that like the idea of kind of getting to what's on the other side of fear, and usually what's like fear is holding us back generally from getting to the places we want to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that was just a concretized example, you know, a very cognitive experience of bringing that example to life, making that metaphor very real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience.
It's so
within like
interesting.
an hour, my
Yeah.
feet were fine. Within like an hour, my feet were fine, but it was pretty painful walking back to the Prudential Center from there. Yeah.
I'm just reading a book right now. I just started it. I'm hopefully going to teach one of the classes. I teach 2 classes in the afternoons, but one of the books I just started. It's called Chatter by a guy named Ethan Cross, and I originally heard of this guy or just maybe a week or 2 ago on Huberman's podcast, and one of the opening things that he says in the book that his lab had researched is that the pain that we experience, whether it be mental slash emotional pain and physical pain, are activated in very, very similar aspects of parts of our brain. And one of the things that they just realized or just seem to observe is that the pain is that emotional pain and mental pain could actually manifest in a very similar way, we can have a very similar experience as what physical pain is. And I'm sure there's no question that giving yourself a tough physical, uh, thing to accomplish, uh, will help fortify the mental aspect of your brain as well. Meaning strengthening one probably strengthens the other if they're both related in terms of pain.
Yes, no, no, and that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's part of the reason why they do that challenge at the end of the day, of day one on this
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, because I think it's like to show you that you can do things that you didn't realize you could do. You know.
So you're staying in Newark, or in Jersey for these 4 days, or
Yeah.
you're going back and forth from Long Island.
No, so great question. Actually, I had my partners in my two businesses were here from South Africa, and we did the event together as like a
Oh, nice.
bit of a team building, a little bit of it's just nice to get a bit of FaceTime. We don't get to see each other in person that often, so it was just a cool thing to do as a team.
Right.
Um, and we were actually staying in somewhere in Newark. None of us really. I'm not familiar with the area, and they
Hmm.
obviously aren't either. And yeah, it was interesting.
I
It was interesting to
can imagine.
to say the least. But I mean, it was awesome. It was a those experiences are where something
Hello,
organic
John.
happens that can't happen virtually. Yeah,
Wait,
can
I'm
you hear
sorry.
me?
You broke up. You said it was interesting, and then you cut out.
Yeah, no, no. I'm not sure why, but those experiences are really where like something organic takes place. Like in those experiences, it's the things that you're not expecting to happen
Oh yeah.
that that you can't be replicated virtually. I'm saying, like, me and my partners, we were staying together in some like random Airbnb in Newark, New Jersey, and like we just laughed for 4 days. We just
It's awesome.
laughed for 4 days, and like we knew we'd have a good time, but like you don't know what you're in for until you're in it, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun. Like we'll
Right.
remember that experience forever.
I bet. I bet. I was actually so I was the first thing that came to my mind when you said that it was going to be like a team building kind of thing was how how worth it do you think team building like stuff like that is, in terms of a business perspective and a personal perspective. Obviously, from a personal perspective, it's what you just described. You just it's awesome memories. It's an experience that in person, an embodied experience that you can't replicate any other way. You think it's going to make an impact on the business relationships between you guys?
Wow, it's a there's a few questions to answer in that question.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
no, 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 it's good, it's good, it's
And
good.
by the way,
First,
answer whatever you want, avoid whatever you
no,
want.
no, no, for
You're
sure,
more
for
than welcome
sure. I'll try and
to.
address as many things as my ADHD brain
And
can
wherever your
handle.
ADHD brain takes you, I'm happy to follow you along with it.
Awesome,
So it's
awesome.
the fun.
Appreciate it, appreciate it. So, to answer the first part of your question and the overarching part of your question, I would say absolutely. Like, there's something to team building, there's something to doing activities together with the people that you work with that are not related to the work that you do together.
Right.
That builds exceptionally, it creates dynamic to, it creates a greater
Depth.
diversity in the dynamics that you
Hmm.
connect with the people that you work with. And I think that's so important, because if it's
Right.
all just work, 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 it becomes a little bit one dimensional, it becomes a little bit mundane. But if you add another area of activity to connect over, you get to learn the people that you work with, and ultimately, I think one hand washes the other. It will create
Sure.
it should, and it does, in my experience, and has created a much better working relationship when you do some things that aren't work related with your colleagues.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, by the way. It's funny because I kind of always looked at them a little. I looked at them like they're a little cheesy, a little corporatey, a little, unnecessary, I guess. Something that only companies with big budgets that have a lot of extra money to spend, offer. But there's a guy that I work with in Colorado, and he's a guy very similar in terms of very similar story to me in terms of his professional career, in the sense that he does other hustles, but he works with his in a company his dad started selling selling and refurbishing medical equipment, and he's around the same age as me, and one of the and we have a great relationship, business and professionally, but that I think I'm sure that helped because I visited him in Colorado a couple of times. I invited him to come to my wedding, and he made a trip to New York out of it. And like we have all these out of work experiences that when by the time we deal with like actual business or business conflict, or tension, I guess we'll say, there's a lot more life and relationship to the to between us, that did not exist before, that gives us trust and confidence in each other. And I guess even just from you saying that, I just realized that the value of it. We don't even work necessarily, we're two different companies. We just happen to work in tandem together a lot.
Yeah, well, I think it also leads me to another part of your question, which is what is the event? Like, if you're on a corporate scale and you want your employees to have to develop that chemistry between your employees, I think it's important the type of activity that you choose to do. There's only so much budget for these types of things within organizations. And I think it's important to capitalize on what you're willing to spend and make that experience count.
Right.
So I think it is important. Like, it's like not everyone likes the same things. So to find something that's like as common ground and conducive to getting just something light-hearted going between people, I think is really, really important. Something that will also create just a bit of a laugh between people.
Yeah, you have to see that the other person's a person. I think it's so important. The other person is another
100%.
human being with a whole life and a whole story and dynamics and relationships that you're not privy to, but that drives them. And it's so important to figure to have an idea as to who that person is.
Yes, yes. So this leads me to like, would I choose necessarily Tony Robbins as the event to do that with? There's parts of it that are conducive to it, and there's parts of it that can be a little bit, I don't want to say destructive, but like, you go on a very individual journey in that seminar.
Right.
A very individual journey. And
it's not group building.
You don't know what's, like, you just don't know what's going to come up. You don't know what's going to come up for you.
Right.
And put it this way. If I'm honest, like, I'm glad I did it with my partners, but I wouldn't send my employees there.
Right. I gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. Like,
because they're different. There's got to be different dynamics among different people that you work with.
Yeah. Absolutely. But no, listen, it was a lot of fun. I think there's massive value to doing these types of off-site events within an organization if you want to really build something with longevity and you want to concretize a solid workforce. Then you cannot look at these things as an expense and rather as a
investment.
An investment.
Exactly.
Right.
How did you decide to do the Tony Robbins event to begin with?
It's interesting again, like that would not have been my first pick as something to do, but one or two of my partners were interested in doing it for themselves anyway. And we thought, well, let's maybe make a go of it. Let's all go. We'll meet up. It'll be 4 days of fun. I mean, it's not all fun. You go through a lot of emotions and a lot of you go through a lot. You go through the full spectrum
Right.
of emotions and reflection, and like you experience some of your pain, you experience some of your joy, you experience the things in your life that you're like so grateful for. And like there's you go through a lot as any sort of healing and transformative experience does. You go through those same things in that event.
Yeah.
um, and but I'll say this, and maybe this is something I should leave for the end of this segment of the conversation, but I'll just say it now because it came to me. Tony Robbins is just it's a set of tools that Tony Robbins will not change your life. What you do after Tony Robbins will change your life.
Right.
How you implement what you've learned there will change your life.
Right.
And it's like any experience in the world. Someone struggling with substance abuse, rehab will not change that person's life. What someone learns in rehab and how they apply what they've learned in rehab will change their life. So
Right.
there is no quick fix. There is no magic pill solution to the human experience.
Despite what everyone tries to sell you.
Yeah, I mean, there's tools, and then there's the application of those tools, and those tools as a standalone resource will do nothing for you unless implemented consistently over time.
Right. Totally. I was having I was just thinking about this the other day, because I was reading two different books actually, but one of them was about a book called American Cartel, and it's talking about the opioid industry and its relation and the drug manufacturers in relationship to the DEA and government agencies, and what started the what started the for the manufacturers to permit themselves to supply so many opioids was they decided to start measuring pain as what they said was the fifth vital sign. That you got your basic four vital signs: SpO2, NIBP. SpO2 is pulse oximetry. NIBP is non-invasive blood pressure, temperature, and EKG, right? And then they say your fifth right is pain, and we don't want people to live with pain, and we can't have pain. And then on another book I was reading, totally separate book, it was discussing how pain. It's called the Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke, and she writes that she was talking about pain is essentially a call for us to measure and recalibrate, to identify that we're doing something incorrectly, and to say, and that's why pain needs to exist, right? Like if you over medicate a migraine or a headache, and you're taking Advil for 2 days straight every couple of hours, and you never stop taking Advil, you have no way of determining whether or not your headache's actually better, right? If you hurt your leg playing basketball, that means that you did something physically incorrect. And if you feel pain in terms of it, a decision that you made, or in terms of a way that you spoke to someone, you know, just innately that you did something that requires fixing, right? That requires a little bit of editing and requires a little bit of work. And it shouldn't be the status quo. It's not the way that things should be. And by alleviating pain completely and completely getting rid of any kind of discomfort, then we don't really have any kind of way of reassessing whether we're living the right way or not, in any facet of our lives. So just to build on what you were saying is, that people that are looking for one quick fixes, you're going to need the pain of the challenge of your experience of your life in order to even determine whether you're doing the right thing or not.
Mm. No, 100%. I mean, pain is a teacher, but pain is ultimately what's the highest motivation that we kind of like live with. It's self-preservation.
Right.
That's like our most basic instinct, is like self-preservation. And pain is a kind of like a tool or a metric to serve that self-preservation. Like we use pain in order to or rather not use pain. We avoid pain in order
Right.
to preserve ourselves.
Right. Right.
and it can be valuable, but like also,
But listen, you don't
sometimes.
want to be living in unnecessary pain, for no reason.
No,
Of
of
course.
course, of course, of course, a
These
hundred
exist,
percent.
these sources, these resources exist for a reason, but they're there to serve as a band-aid while the real work gets done.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't need to be in pain all through your surgery. You get anesthesia, the doctor knows what you got to do, and then you deal with it after, right? Like you do need that to a certain extent. Um, but like what you said, you said you got to build on it. Like if you don't build on it, there's not much else you can do.
no, 100%, 100%. The interesting thing about pain, I find, is, um, in my experience, and perhaps the experience of quite a lot of other people, is I won't make a change in my life until I'm in enough pain.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the idea of being a sucker for punishment, like I'm a culprit of that.
Oh
Or I
yeah.
have been. I think I maybe a little bit better at it than I once was. But like, pain is a motivator, man. Like, if
Yeah.
I'm not in enough pain over a situation, I'm probably not going to change it. And that's not like necessarily the healthiest way of living. You know, probably the prevention of the things that put us in pain is a healthier way of living. But yeah, until I'm in enough pain, I might not make a change. And again, it's something that I'm probably better at today than I once was. In fact, I would dare to say that I'm definitely a lot better at
That's
that
good.
today than I once was. But it's, yeah, pain can be useful if we work with it well enough. I find though a lot of people stay in pain as a result of not being able to accept. And I'm talking about emotional pain now,
Yeah.
not
Sure.
physical
Yeah.
pain. But a lot of people stay in pain as a result of not being able to accept something or some person or some place or some situation in their life, and they repel that, and
Sure.
or people sometimes repel those situations, and it ends up in more pain typically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the choice of the familiar problem over the unfamiliar solution. For the most time. I mean, even if something kind of hurts, but we could tolerate it, we prefer to be in a world where we know what's going on, whether we like it or not. At least we know it. Yeah, at least it's familiar. And launching us into the unknown solution of anything that we're dealing with, especially emotionally, is one of the hardest challenges. I mean, it gets to the point, and I mean, it doesn't. Myself, for example, and this didn't really happen, thankfully. It wasn't too much. It was a little bit of chatter in the back of my head, but even big changes like getting married, or having starting a family, or the experience. I had a minor panic attack right before my son was born. It was like these those are like my life is familiar. My life is comfortable. I don't know what the heck is about to happen, and I mean, I don't know if you had this experience, but when my wife was expecting, I kind of felt like she was just going to be pregnant for the rest of our lives, and like this is our new reality now.
Yeah,
Rachel's
but
twice her size, and she's cravings and whatever it is, and this is just life now. And then when the doctor said, "Okay, the time for the baby to come," I'm like, "Whoa, wait, I'm not ready for that." And the doctor's like, "Well, we're not really asking you," so I was kind of
yeah,
forced into that, but who
yeah,
knows, man? It's crazy.
100%. Well, they say shit stinks, but it's warm.
I never heard that.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of
That's a
my
great
favorite.
line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of my favorite expressions.
Is that a South African line? Because I never heard
No, 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 no.
that.
It's not a South African one. It's actually from the rooms of recovery. I learned that, where I learned most of the things that I know today.
Shit stinks, but it's warm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, shit
I
stinks,
love
but
it.
it's warm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the same. It's a similar application to the same concept. Um, so what were the rest of the days like? So what were the other days?
So day one was breakthrough. Day two was momentum, um, which I don't remember too much about. Tony wasn't on for that, but he had a
And when
bunch of
he's
like
not there, he gets other guests and other
they've
prominent.
got a whole roster. They've got that event planned out to a T. It's they know what they're doing. It's so
Gotcha.
professionally done. It's so the like from the temperature of the room to the oxygen levels in the room to the they know their trade. They've mastered their trade.
That's awesome.
And yeah. It's good. It's good. Like, yeah, day two was momentum, which was basically building on a lot of the stuff from day one. Day three was not breakthrough, was transformation. Day three is like considered, I think, day one and day three are like the really really big days.
Okay.
And transformation is like they take you through a bit of a process of, I mean, just it's so information and content dense that I'm actually not remembering it all. But they take you through something called the Dickens process, which is like basically taking you through some sort of a visceral and experiential process of feeling what it will be like to not change.
Oh,
5 years from
interesting.
now.
So like, as if you continued exactly down the same road that you're on now. And
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
so interesting. And that's a little bit more contemplation, meditation, and kind of thought experiments, or what is that?
It's actually a very intense experience where he does. It is like a meditation, but it's not like a meditation that puts you at ease. It's a meditation that actually um, makes you feel very uncomfortable and very almost fearful and painful and like.
Is it breath work?
No, this isn't
It's
breath
not
work.
like breath work.
This
Okay.
is like a guided meditation where um, he basically, geez, I can't remember the specifics, but I do remember like going to a bit of a darkish place, just like,
Yeah.
realizing like there's certain changes that I need to make, and like like life can go in a very, very like not good direction very easily, and life is fragile, and
Yeah.
it's to be embraced, appreciated, respected, and optimized rather
Right.
than the converse of that.
Sure.
And but like people go through crazy experiences in this. There was people crying around me. There's people screaming. It's like being in a horror movie and you're in a room of 10,000 people, most
Oh
of
my
which are
God.
like screaming. It's like deeply uncomfortable. It's visceral is like the word I would use. It's like you
Yeah.
feel it. It's like
Yeah.
it sits in your like gut and diaphragm area almost.
My wife was telling me that she did something similar when she did a breathwork class that she just tried out. She was trying a different series of just cool classes that caught her attention, and one of them was, and there was like there's therapeutic type of classes, but through different alternative means. So one of them was like dance therapy, which was basically that we carry we carry our discomfort and our trauma and a lot of our weight in different parts of our body, and you don't even notice that it's there until you kind of find a way to access it. And then the other thing that she said was, so by dancing, you're moving that part of your body. I guess it's more coordinated movement than dancing, but you're moving that part of your body that really feels like it's gathered a lot of tension or a lot of weight, and you kind of let it spill out and let it manifest in its own weird way. And then she also said about the breath work that she said, or I think it was music therapy or breathwork therapy, and she said it was exactly the same or very similar, except on a much smaller scale. Instead of being 10,000, it was 20 people or 25 people, and she's like these women were crying and laughing and screaming and no one had and she's like, and I was too. She said that she was too uncomfortable to kind of get into that zone where they were because she was just processing everything for the first time. Like she's like, I didn't let like you have to let yourself get to that place. You have to you have to lower those boundaries and let those walls down
And it's a
before.
practice. It's a practice. You're not like the first time being shown something like that. You're not necessarily going to access the depth of where you get that release of
Totally.
that pain and that experience. But listen, I'm a big believer of, and it's weird. I'm a believer of a lot of these things, but I'm not necessarily someone that engages with them as frequently as I'd like.
Me
But
too,
like
dude.
things like breath work, bro. There's magic happening in the breath work world.
Really?
Yeah, people are having big breakthroughs, and
I
I've
mean,
heard of a
it's
few
pretty much
people.
you could pretty much have a psychedelic. You could pretty much have a psychedelic experience
Yeah,
vis-a-vis breath work.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely,
It's
100%.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And people are having big breakthroughs that I've heard of. Again, I haven't. I'd love to do a breath workshop and actually go there, like let myself go to that place. There's definitely stuff that I don't there's places within myself that I don't let myself go to as a
Yeah.
form of
Sure.
self-preservation again.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. And there are times where do you feel that depending on its urgency or relevance that it'll fester up or start to bubble up and you have to either find a way to temporarily tame it, acknowledge it head on, because I have times where I feel that way and I have to find a way to I have to find a way to come to terms with it and soothe it and work my way through it. And even if I don't go to that full place all the way, I'm responding to its call. Whether or not I'm going to be sitting there in a dark room with it for hours is another conversation. But to be aware of it almost is a whole nother game.
Well, I think so many people, myself very much included, are um, living in the state of projection. And what I mean by that is like, I don't think we're all on a very conscious level aware of like what's keeping us in pain sometimes. Or let me speak for myself because I don't know what other people's experience is.
Sure.
But like sometimes I'm not consciously aware necessarily of what's like keeping me stuck or in pain.
Right.
And then it will come out in like completely other ways.
Oh,
And it will
sure.
be, so like a very trivial example is like, let's say someone cuts me off in traffic. I don't care that you cut me off in traffic. Like that doesn't matter. I care that like someone spoke to me in a way that brings out childhood trauma of not feeling good enough.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm expressing that anger in
Direction of the driver that cut you off.
exactly, because bro, if you cut me off in traffic, nothing in my life changed. Nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I'm fine. I'm here. Okay, so I had to slow down slightly or like whatever. But it's just that little, the cutting off of in traffic is just a little event that has a big trigger and
Right.
catalysts off the deeper insecurities and
Sure.
pain and like I think it's a very like basic example, but I think a lot of people are living in that state.
Sure.
A lot of people.
But you could get, do you think that you could fundamentally, I, I don't want to, can you get past that?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
think you
It's just
could?
a lot of work.
Right.
It's
Okay. There was an argument that I've heard. I think it was Neil Harris, but I don't remember. Is that his name? Sam Harris. I have a buddy named Neil Harris. That's why Sam Harris said that he threw out the notion that we don't actually have free will because everything is just a combination of our nature and our nurture, and like based on the combination of our gene pool and the experiences that we had, there's essentially only a very limited number of ways that we can operate, and so we don't really have the free choice that we think we have. But if you say that you can rise beyond, let's say, this, for example, the childhood experience of not feeling good enough, which I definitely, relate to and experience myself, then what you're essentially saying is you can rise beyond your nurture and your nature, I'm sure, but definitely your nurture.
I guess another way of rephrasing
It's
this
a little
question
esoteric, but
is
it's interesting.
can people change? Like
Well,
it's another way of
yeah.
rephrasing the question. In a sense, it's maybe a shallower form of the question, but it's like I think people can. I think we
Can you
can rise
expand the
above.
potential? Can you expand everyone is kind of living in like this very zoned in, um, I guess, we live focused into moment by moment pretty much, and what our experiences in the past do help dictate the way that that our relationship to the moment. Um, if that makes sense, right? What we experienced in the past will dictate to us the appropriate way to deal with the present. But and a lot of that comes subconsciously, right? So I guess that's the point of all of this work is to do, and that is, I guess, what you just said, to change.
Yeah, but it's like what comes up for us emotionally and in our thoughts based on an activity is one thing. And maybe sometimes that can't be changed based on our nurture and nature. But how we respond to that event can be changed. Like, you can change your behavior, you can change the way you speak, you can change the way you act.
You can change the way
And
you think, even.
and my opinion is that after changing the way you speak and act, you'll start to change the way you think. I don't
Yes.
think you change the way you think before you change your behavior. That's just not been my experience. My experience has been change your behavior, change, start to in the equation of thoughts, feelings, behavior, and speech. I think we can ultimately change first probably our behavior or our speech, and or I'll pull those things in together as one thing. I'll just call it our actions. If we can change our actions and consistently keep those actions changed, I think that will start to develop. It's like CBT. It's like changing the
The
neural
way that you think.
pathways. Yeah, the
Yeah.
neural, the rewiring our brain to have like um, a different association with different experiences that
Yeah.
typically before would have elicited certain feelings and thoughts, and maybe post doing some work on oneself, those same experiences will elicit different thoughts and feelings. And in
Right.
that sense, I think we can change. And just to take it back to the cutting off of traffic example, if I've done the work on myself and continue to do the work on myself, because I actually hate the word I've done the work. Like,
Right.
there's no done. There's
I'm doing the
doing.
work.
There's
Yeah.
doing.
Doing.
There's doing. There's no done. People who say I've done the work on themselves have done the work on themselves. They just stopped,
Hmm.
which is as useless as anything. Um, Sometimes
Right.
that might have been aggressive, but like, and again, anything I say, I'm speaking really
Yeah.
to
Of course.
myself. I'm
Yes.
speaking
Yes.
really
Yes.
to myself.
Sure, and about yourself,
Um,
which is that's all.
and
But
about
that's all.
myself.
But you've already put out that that's all you can really attest to, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's all
yeah,
anyone's
yeah,
going
yeah.
to believe that you think anyway. You know.
Yeah, 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 100%, 100%. But just to take it back to the cutting off in traffic example, if I'm in that process of doing the work and someone cuts me off in traffic, if I'm at peace with myself, then what you do to me that doesn't really affect me within reason. If you stab me in the arm, I'm going to feel that pain. I'm going to get angry. But like, if you say something to me that's a bit hurtful, and I'm comfortable with who I am as a result of having done the work or carry on doing the work, then like, I hold my power and I'm going to respond to that from a place of esteem. But if I'm like not doing the work and I'm in that place of pain and you say something to me that's hurtful, then I'm going to lash out. I mean, these aren't massive, these aren't new
No, these are
insights.
yeah. They're not new insights. They're just hard. They're just way harder to implement than they are to learn. You know.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%
I
on a
mean, it's
theoretical.
literally it's a lifelong challenge, and that's something I'm very conscious of in general. I really try very hard to keep my neuroplasticity open, and I really try to keep my mind open and not to let the two things, not to let the rule of my personal experience be the objective reality, because I know it's not the case, and B, to always open myself up to that. Even my subjective um, perception is not what I always think it is, and so to keep my mind and eyes open to something that is not, to the fact that I might not be, my understanding today might not be the same understanding as I have tomorrow, or in a year or two or five from now.
Ephraim, you're breaking up quite a lot. I lost you
Oh
there.
no, where'd I miss you? Where'd I lose you?
Um,
The whole
do you want to
thing?
just say that those last
The
like
whole
three or
thing.
four lines back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what I was
yeah.
gonna say, what I was saying, oh shoot, I hope I remember, is that that I try to keep my neuroplasticity open. I try to keep my mind open to to constantly be aware of the fact that my experience is subjective and that someone else's reality is not necessarily going to be the same as mine. So to be as understanding as possible when I deal with people, and then that even my own understanding with what my life is like right now is not going to be the same as what it's going to be tomorrow in a year and five. And so to be comfortable with that
If you
insecurity of
grow,
knowledge.
if
Yes,
you
of course.
grow,
Well, I'm looking to grow,
which is the goal.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
trying
Of
to.
course, of course, of course.
But
But
I
I'm
think
saying,
that,
but
yeah, insecurity
yeah,
is insecurity, admitting that you don't know everything, that everything is not exactly the way you think it is all the time, is one of the main ways, I think, one of the key ingredients to be able to actually develop.
it's the foundation.
Right,
It's the
right,
foundation.
right.
Without that, you're screwed.
Yeah, and I find that that for a lot of people that are older, probably in their, I mean, it could really go as far as like I was talking to a cousin of mine, and I asked him the last time he really changed his mind on a big political issue, right? Just in general, and
That's a
any
great
political
question.
issue.
That's a
Yeah, and
great
I
question.
was like, when's the last time you changed your mind? He's 20, he's 30 years old, 31 years old, whatever it is. When's the last time you changed your mind? He told me college. That means it was 7 or 8 years since the last time that he changed his mind on a political thought. Now, is it possible that he has constantly reevaluated and then and each time determined that the way that he thought was always right? It is possible. Is it likely that that's the case? I would not necessarily assume so, but things are always changing, and I think that we need to adjust. I think we need to adjust accordingly, keep our eyes open, and the people, and that's what holds change back. That's what holds people back. That even if you say things like breath work is, it has been getting excellent clinical results, or psychedelics have been getting X, Y, and Z clinical results, and people are like no, and you don't have any response other than no, and there's no other aspect of the conversation, then like how alive are these? When I say alive, I mean how conscious or how in the how aware are the people that you're dealing with?
Yeah, listen, I totally agree. I totally agree. Then that like it becomes a little tricky as to like where do you draw the line, so to speak? Because like you've got to have your values,
Right.
and you got to question things all the time if you want to grow and evolve and progress through life, and you got to have an open mind. But again, to what end?
Right.
Um, and that I think that's the everyone's got a different appetite for that level of what they're willing to compromise on in terms of evaluating how they feel about certain situations or whatever. But it is an interesting sort of it's an interesting place to analyze because being too open-minded can also not be a good thing, but not being open-minded at all is definitely not a good thing.
Well,
So
not having values or goalposts or yardsticks where you can say, I have tangible lines that I value, that I think are fundamental to life, right? I think helping support life is fundamental to life. I think having a family is fundamental to life. I think that, a sense of community. Like we've pretty much discovered that humans need those three things at the very least. And then the nuance as to the best way to accomplish those things or the best way to experience those things, that's a combination of open-mindedness and experience. And your experience with something being okay, your experience with something working or not working is going to, will help shape how open your mind, how open you're going to be about that in the future. Um, but I do think like you're right. When I say open-mindedness, I don't mean flexibility in values. I mean willingness to learn something new and engage in a perspective that you haven't thought about before.
Yeah. No, couldn't
It's
agree
a
more.
yeah, but yeah, I have to be careful about the way I phrase that because it could be
No, no, no,
misunderstood.
no. No. I was just playing devil's advocate, but I was
Yeah,
totally with you on your thought pattern. And I think, interestingly, um, as parents, it's extremely important to maintain that sort of flexibility and open mindedness, because your kids don't grow up in your generation. That's not how it
yeah,
works.
yeah. Dude, I have no
And
idea what kind of world our kids are gonna grow up in, man.
I have no idea. And
It's crazy.
I'm a new parent. I've got a 14-month-old daughter,
Wow.
and I have no idea, bro. Like you,
Right, right. Are you conscious of the fact, or how prevalent is this notion on your mind while you're parenting that anything that any given moment might be a colossal screw up? Because I think about that quite a bit. Like I think about that every moment that I experience with my kid is an opportunity for me to screw up and for them to resent me or get some kind of trauma or whatever. And I'm never going to get it perfect, but I find myself thinking about that quite a bit.
so I don't think about that much yet. I think as my daughter gets older, that will definitely feature. Right now, we're just having a lot of fun, which is awesome
14 months is awesome. Is she
because
walking?
yeah, she's walking and she's
Oh,
like saying a
nice.
few words, and she's got a lot of teeth, and she's like developing her personality.
It's
But like,
incredible to
as
watch.
I'm loving every second of it. Like I miss her when I'm not around her. It's crazy. Like when we put her to sleep, I like miss her. I like want to go wake her up and chill, but I obviously can't.
Dude, I've
But
been waking up my kid the last like waking up, but like anytime he rolls over, I'm like to my wife, "Can I get him? Can I get him? Can I get him?" And she's like, "Leave him
yeah, I do the
alone.
same. Yeah,
Leave him
my wife.
alone."
It's the
And,
same
but
thing.
but what I'll do is I'll get him, and then I'll play with him for like a minute or two, and then be like, "Okay, I'm tired," and go back to bed. And then my wife was like, "No, no, 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 no! You took him out of bed. You gotta put him back, and you gotta deal with him at least because this is just preposterous. You can't just leave me with him like this." And it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, but it's so crazy how I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I guess it's yeah. I didn't even know what that is. How's the business been? You're essentially your own boss, right?
Yeah, for the first time in my life,
You want to tell
and
me
it's
about it?
been it's a journey, bro. It's such a journey. It's been awesome. I'm loving this journey. To be honest, I wouldn't have it any other way. It sucks because I can never work for someone again.
You think so?
So I really hope this shit works out.
What about not working for someone but having partners with equal say as you? Do you think you'd be okay with that?
No, well, that's my situation. That is my
Okay,
current
gotcha.
situation.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
gotcha,
yeah, yeah,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
But it's not a one
Yeah.
man show that you're running. You're just
No,
running
no, no,
it.
no. I'm partnered with. And I'm very lucky in the sense of the who my partners are and the relationships that I have with my partners within the businesses that we own together and outside of the businesses that we own
Is
together.
there a new one? Because I think when you and I met, the only one that I heard about was I guess staffing. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, so we've got two businesses. It's quite an interesting setup. So I'm partnered with actually my childhood best friend in my staffing business. So he's in South Africa, still I'm here, and we have an offshore staffing company where we hire talent in South Africa and pair them up with companies here in the States.
Hmm.
And then there's a second business which is a digital marketing agency, and that business was started by two people in South Africa about 8 years ago.
Oh
And
wow.
my partner has a very good relationship with those two people, and we decided to buy a portion of their business out.
Oh
And
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've bought a piece of them out, and have started funneling American clients to them. So they're also a South African based digital marketing agency, and we service a lot of American clients as well. and I've
how do you
developed
break into that? How do you break into the customer base? Because I know that's a very there's a lot of people in that industry, right?
yeah, it's a pretty densely populated industry in the States. Obviously, our ammo is that like our costs are in South African rands, so
Right.
we providing like for like, if not better, or sometimes slightly better, slightly worse, whatever it might be, services, but for a much more reduced rate, because
Right.
our costs are our labor
Way
costs
lower.
are in rands, yeah,
Right.
which is basically the same concept for both of my businesses.
What's the dollar to
Um,
rand ratio?
right now it's about 18 rand to $1. So it's fluctuating
Whoa,
somewhere between
really?
17.5 and 18. Yeah,
Whoa, I didn't know it was that
yeah.
high. It was that high?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the unfortunately the South African economy's like kind of plummeted in I would say the last decade to 15 years. I mean, I remember a time when I was in Israel, when I was 19, so 12 years ago.
Hmm.
What's it, 12 years ago? No, what am I saying, 12 years ago? More, like 14 years ago now, pretty
Crazy.
much. Yeah,
Isn't that
well,
crazy? It's almost a whole
yeah, yeah,
life
yeah.
since then.
I know, it's very scary. But when I was in Israel, when I was 19 in 2011, the rand to the dollar was about, I think, like 6.5 or maybe 7 rand to $1. Now it's
Wow.
18.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happened?
That's a big
Loaded
question.
question.
Yeah, a lot happened.
A
Listen,
lot happened.
unfortunately, just a lot of corruption within the South African government. A
Has
lot of
for example, has Trump's win, is that going to make a positive or a negative impact on the dollar to rand ratio, you think? Or you have no idea?
um, well, it depends on what side of the spectrum you're on. Like, for me, the dollar getting stronger is a positive thing. If
Right.
you're living in South Africa, the dollar getting positive, it's not necessarily
But
not
even for
a
your
positive
workers, it's
thing, but
positive, right? Even for the people that are getting paid in America, are the people getting paid in dollars or rand?
rands, rands,
Gotcha,
rands.
gotcha,
But
gotcha.
but but
Okay.
but like some of the workers, like the guys doing sales roles, it might affect them positively when the dollar gets stronger because of commissions, because they'll
Sure.
earn dollar-based commissions but earn a basic salary in rands.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean the dollar getting stronger is good for me here, but like my whole family are in South Africa, and when the dollar gets stronger, it just becomes like more and more expensive for them to like come visit here or
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, um, but also, no, what was I going to say? No, the
The
dollar getting
ratio, whether it's good, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing. The dollar getting stronger is it's a good thing. I think.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right, right. Yeah, I had a
yeah.
couple of deals fall apart recently because they were being done in Mexico, and the peso and the value of the peso collapsed, and relative to the dollar, and so a lot of customers of mine that were on the verge of buying, equipment, for them it just became two or three times more expensive because, or yeah, I don't know about two or three times, but significantly more expensive, and the deal just fell apart. They're like, listen, I don't even know. I can't even give you a timeline as to when I might even come back. Like I have no idea what's gonna
Mm.
happen right now. It's crazy.
Last I checked, the peso was about 16 to one.
Sixteen
What's it
to
at
one.
now? I mean, that
Do
was
you,
a long
you,
time ago.
right, right, right. Yeah, I don't know.
What? Uh, I'm not sure what it's at now.
I'm not sure. I
But
know that it must be worse because I know that I lost a couple of deals, and it's crazy because they even put deposits down in their bank, or they got their banks to approve the deposits, and then the bank is like, well, I just want you to know that the currency, as of X, Y, and Z point in time, it's going to be much more. I mean, this is what it's really going to cost, and they all just ran. That was it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but like just to go back to the question, like, of being a business owner compared like
Oh,
to, I
yes.
mean,
Yes, 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 yes.
this is the first time. This is very uncharted waters for us. You know, we've been going for like a little bit over, I don't know, 14, 15 months now. And it's been awesome. It's been a
Do you love it?
journey. I love it. It's been
You love
highs,
it.
there's been lows, there's been um, fear, but like it's always your north star is just so much clearer when it's your business. I
Right,
find like
right.
I've worked for people my whole life, and like you know, I always tried, I always did like I always gave a respectable effort, I believe. But you know, it's like when it's yours, it's different. It
Hmm.
just is.
Right.
And I prefer being partnered. Like doing this alone would be quite scary, I think.
So do you find that your partners um, fill in different weaknesses and strengths that you have, and you guys, and that's how you determine on a partners, or is it just more like a couple of buddies calls, and you're like, oh yeah, let's do this, or both?
The first business, which is our staffing agency, or you know, our offshore staffing company. That was more like two buddies with a big idea, and
Right.
it kind of happened organically. We weren't really anticipating ever being in business together. You know, I don't think we were best childhood friends. We've been
Are you nervous about being in business with one of your best friends?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, you know, like if you're honest and realistic, like we've had conversations where, you know, especially in the beginning, we had to acknowledge like we're about to cross a line that like we don't know what's on the other side, you
Right.
know. And we thought about it, you know, we took our time and we thought about it, and we've got, you know, kind of like I would say things in place that keep, you know, separating like work from play.
Hmm.
But no, at the end of the day, it's business, and like we're close enough people, thankfully, that we can confront discomfort and have uncomfortable conversations, which we've had to have in the past,
Sure.
and like work through them on a human
Yeah.
level.
It's very
Um,
difficult to do, man. It's so hard to do.
yeah, no, and of course it's been challenging at times, and I know he would say the same thing, like a hundred
Right.
percent.
Right.
Um, but like we've had to do that.
I had to fire one of my best friends and my roommate, essentially, uh, which was so difficult to do. And then it was even more difficult for me because a month or two later, he had a job that was paying him exponentially more and better and less time. And I was like, how did that even happen, man? But, but we had, I had, it took an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy to
mm,
get myself to sit down with him and tell him, listen, dude, I'm not going to cut you off, right now, but you got to start looking for something else, and to not let that get in the way of and I think our relationship was probably a lot. It made a lot better when he got that other job. That there was nothing that he felt like he was losing out on officially anymore. Like he's okay. Well, now I'm okay, and now everything's fine, so it all worked out. But it was real tough for a couple of weeks, or more.
yeah, listen, it's once you cross that line with
Hmm.
someone who you've got a friendship with outside of that, I think it will change the dynamic. Like if I'm if I call a spade, 95%, no more, no, yeah, 90% whatever. Call it 90% of our conversations today are work based. Me and my best
Right.
friend,
Right.
you know, but we speak every single day, multiple times a
Hmm.
day.
Yeah.
Whereas before we had entered this, we were catching up once every couple of weeks, because, like, we were keeping up with each other's lives, and we showed a keen interest in each other's success and growth, and and all of that. But it was once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Now we still check in with each other, like
But it's different.
No, so yeah, it is different. Like
I mean, it's
it
not
is.
bad
Call it
different. It's
a
not bad
spade.
different,
No,
but it's such a different dynamic. I mean, you're literally. I mean, your income, and also like there's personal and there's business. You know that like, that's like the reason why that's such a cliche is because it's so true. The way that people function and operate when on a business context and a personal context are just different. If you're lucky, they align. If you're lucky, what makes you like the person personally also applies to business. But it's not always the same way.
so we are in that very like rare, fortunate situation.
Hmm. It's awesome.
And I know it is, and like please God, I hope that that dynamic always remains the same and only gets stronger, because like our interests are very much aligned on both levels, personal and business. And like, listen, we don't know what the future holds, but we taking it a day. We take it a day at a time, and we've never been closer.
Yeah,
Which is really really cool.
yeah.
Um, but it's
Because you've probably
we
heard
never know.
you've crossed you've crossed that chasm. I mean, once you make it across, then your relationship has more depth. I work with my dad, and also most 95% of our conversations are employer employee. And I have to remind myself, and I wish I'm great about it. I'm pretty good about it, but I have to remind myself to treat my dad like my dad. You know, at times, or have conversations with him, father to son, as opposed to worker to worker. And there was actually one time we got in a fight, and and we were really at an impasse, and both of us were really strongly disagreeing with one another. And I spit out. We both had a couple of drinks in us at that point, but as what usually happens. But I kind of spit out. I was like, "What are you gonna do? You gonna fire me?" And like the second I said that, I'm like, I just crossed the line from like, son to like that line is so blurred now that instead of responding to the situation as a son to a father, I'm responding as an employee to an employer. And it was really it was really an eye opening moment for me to just see how a relationship could kind of slide out of hand like that.
Yeah, I mean, compartmentalizing those two dynamics and, being able to have that father-son relationship and employee-employer relationship, and keeping those two things separate. I don't know if it's possible, but like it requires a lot of mindfulness, and just a lot of it creates another area of like working for oneself. But like I'll say, like if you respect one another, like you can get through it. You can get through anything. It's
Sure.
almost like a marriage.
Yeah.
Like if you respect each other and value one another for what each person brings to the table, um, the rest is nuance. The rest is like we both know where we want to go. So we
Yeah.
might argue about the direction we take in getting there or the route that we take in getting there. But it's I would say almost always, if not always, in our situation, thank God, a very productive conversation, one with thought. It's like coming from a place of what's the fastest and best place to getting where we want to go, best way of getting where we want to go,
Yeah.
rather than it should be done this way because I said so. Like we thankfully, and it's not always the case with people, but we thankfully are like mature enough to and we're pretty both of us are pretty worked on people,
That's really important. It's
in
so
a lot of
important.
ways. And we're usually first of all willing to accept where we're wrong. It's happened on both sides of the aisle. Yeah, I
That
think
builds trust. That's so important. To admit when you're wrong to someone else, even when you both know you're wrong, but for you to say it and put yourself in that state of vulnerability, and to put your and to give someone else like that quote that potential weapon or tool, that you admit that you are wrong about something, shows them that you are trying to show good faith and you care, and you want to establish trust in a relationship. And from their perspective, you're they you're you're showing that you care more about the relationship and what you're building than about whether or not you're personally vindicated. It's so important.
Yeah, and like to add to that, also giving credit where credit's due. Like my
Yes.
partner will like often give me credit where I like almost struggle to give myself credit,
Yeah.
and I try to do the same. But he's very good at that. Like he's like, bro, pat yourself on the back. Like you're doing good work.
Yeah. Awesome.
And yeah, I think I do it to him as well. But I'm definitely like cognizant of the times he's done it for me. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. It's so foundational. By the
And the
way, I
same
think keeping that up will make sure you have a successful business partnership.
Yeah. It's been awesome. Like I love it. I really love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And we're
It's
we're
really
having
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
Like we're having fun, which is awesome. Because like not every day's fun, but like we
You need to have
we
fun though.
we're very fortunate in the dynamic that we have, and yeah, we took a risk, but like we're enjoying the journey.
It's awesome. I mean, I really, it's so awesome to hear that, and it's so awesome to hear people, taking risks and diving into these, uncharted waters and showing that they can make it through. Um, I'm so sorry. I have to cut this short because I do have to go. I have to get ready to go teach and I have to go drive to school. But I want to get you back on, dude. I want to continue talking about a lot of other things. I have so many things that I wanted to talk to you about: school and psychology, and and obviously the business and a lot, South Africa maybe a little bit. But
Absolutely.
I unfortunately can't do it this minute. So I'm gonna have to get you committed to come back on again and do this again with me.
It would
and
it would be my greatest pleasure, and thank you so much for having me on today.
yeah,
Like it's
sorry it's
been
short, but yeah, we're gonna. This was really so much fun, and we're gonna follow up, and we're gonna do another one again soon. All right,
totally down. Thank you so much for
Johnny, thanks so much,
having the
man.
conversation. Yeah, awesome,
Of
bro.
course, man. All right,
Thank
I'll
you, my
talk to you
friend.
later, man. Bye, everyone.
Absolutely, ciao, man.